Again, actions will speak louder than words. Kamala Harris is fake. She's a consummate politician. We've got to pay attention to her record as vice president.
If Kamala Harris was here right now, what would you tell her? You're cooked. You were in charge of the border for the past 3 years, and where have you been? I don't even think you ever went. All I see you at is rallies with Megan Thee Stallion twerking out to vote, saying that you're going to get the economy in place, but you've had the past 3 years to do it. You literally aren't doing anything. I want to also tell you this. You're not black. You're Indian. And for you to try and sit here and pander, depending on what election year it is and who it is that you're talking to, is outrageous.
That's right, folks. Voters are now wise to what the Harris campaign has been doing all this time. There's no question that we've seen mainstream media manipulate voters and the polls, especially when you consider that late last year, Kamala Harris has an approval rating of around, 36%? And worse than what we've seen with President Joe Biden. And hey guys, before we get started, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. Thanks so much for subscribing and sharing these videos on social media. Let's get started. But now that she's running for the presidential position, polls have suddenly turned around. I don't believe it either, I know. But what it hasn't changed though are the minds of voters who are thinking critically about the future. Voters who are comparing the term of Donald Trump to that of the Biden-Harris administration. Check out this report from ABC News and how one black voter left them speechless.
The divide between urban and rural and Harris versus Trump couldn't have been clearer, like here at Crane Grain Farms in Kenosha County. Owner Michael Daniels says he'll vote solely on the economy.
Our expenses, the inflation, it's hard to stay in front of it. Now with the collapsing ag world, the poor trade deficit, we need to balance this stuff. We have to get back to where we were.
You supported Trump in 2016. In 2020, you would do it again.
Without a doubt. I say I'm fiscally conservative, but I tend to be a little liberal when it comes to humans. But it goes back to we can't help everyone if we don't have a strong economy.
Like Pennsylvania and Michigan, Wisconsin is critical for Harris. 4 years ago, Biden carried Wisconsin by just under 21,000 votes, the closest margin of victory of the election. While our polls show support from black voters has swung 12 points in Harris's favor,
I'm leaning more towards Kamala.
Melody Davey has not bought in. Trump's rhetoric has clearly had an effect on her in an astonishing way.
Have you decided who you want to vote for?
Honestly, no. I'm leaning towards Trump.
And why is that?
A lot of the stuff Kamala says is kind of like what Trump has said, like no taxes on tips was something that was kind of reiterated by Trump beforehand. She's just kind of been caught up in a lot of lies.
Like what?
I think lying about her heritage was one of them.
You think she lied about her heritage?
Yeah, I believe she's just Indian. I don't think she's black.
She is always identified as black. She is half Indian.
Well, I think that's something we can definitely agree to disagree on.
And there was no convincing her otherwise.
It's clear that they're wording Kamala Harris's ethnicity differently. They're not confirming that she's black. Liberal media will only tell you that the vice president identifies as black.
Okay, so what we're gonna cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
Yeah.
So we're both Indian, but actually we're both South Indian.
Yes. You look like the entire one half of my family.
Okay, thank you.
You do.
I've been telling people we're related already, so this is perfect. It's basically true.
Do you believe that identifying as someone who's black counts toward being black? And I think that was the point of the voter. Harris has always used her ethnicity to her advantage, and it seems as if it's coming out of the playbook of none other than Hillary Clinton.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
See, that, friends, is what we call the black scent, and that is the old country black scent. That is the black scent that all of these politicians bring out every 4 years when they want to go talk to the black folks. And they need to know black folks You know, they need to talk to them with the old Southern dialect. You know, when they talk to the black folks, they need to know that they ain't in no ways tired. And in 2024, we gonna get this done, black folks. We gonna give y'all freedom, black folks. We gonna give you freedom.
Now, this is one of the reasons as to why liberal media is so shocked to meet Trump supporters, because they've been working overtime to paint Kamala Harris as this politician that can do no wrong.
A few days ago, President Trump said he didn't know Vice President Harris was a black woman. I'm trying to figure out what all the outrage is about because she's only black when it's time to get elected. Did I lie? The same black people who are mad at Trump for being confused about her race, ethnicity, nationality, whatever, are seemingly forgetting that while you're touting her as a savior for black people, she identifies as an Asian woman. She chose her side and it wasn't ours.
She's being propped up as a beacon of hope, even though we're not even sure what she plans on doing. There's no policies that she's talking about. Now, sure, she's got a to-do list, but she really doesn't necessarily have a how-to list. It's also pretty fascinating that reporters from ABC News and other left-leaning news outlets seem to be so offended when they can't change the mind of somebody that they're talking to. But don't worry, because some of these journalists are not afraid to lie. And they would do it with a huge smile on their faces too, as if we're crazy for thinking otherwise.
She's the sitting vice president of the United States. A traveling press pool is with her at all times. That's why you do not see the majority of those in the media who are asking her for an interview, because they can speak to her at all times. Number two.
No.
Number two,
it's all off the record,
the most important interview she's doing is with the American people.
No.
And that's why you see the polls responding the way they are in terms of who they prefer being the next leader of the free world.
I give you points for spin.
The polls are going to decide who the next president of the United States is.
The people are. The people have not heard any answers from her on anything.
Well,
she's actually not answering questions from voters either. She's answering questions from nobody.
So who's going to decide the next nominee? The media or the people?
Well, the nominee
who would you rather interview with?
The nominee was not decided by your party's voters.
Who would you rather interview with for November?
You just asked me a question. Who's going to decide the next nominee?
Yeah.
Your party voted for a nominee and then threw him out by the elites. So that's already
not true. He decided to step aside and gave the opportunity for Kamala Harris to be our nominee.
All of his own volition.
I tell you what, guys.
14 million votes.
In the house that Michael Jordan built here at the United Center. You're right, Guy. That was some spin, Antoine.
Did you see how he kept slipping that it's not the people who will decide who will win these elections? He kept talking about polls and the media. And to be honest, this was undoubtedly a spin, one that left-leaning news outlets are all for because they want the American people to believe it. This is the same set of news stations that told you and me that President Joe Biden was mentally sharp and that he could serve 4 more years. The same Joe Biden that said that he would not step down as their presidential nominee. There's an old saying for this scenario, guys. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think George Bush tried to use that quote at one point, but he totally screwed it up. Anyway, this is the beginning of liberal media breaking down. In fact, they're in panic mode right now.
I'm not in favor of decriminalizing or not having consequence for. We have to keep. Let me just be very clear. We have to have a secure border. But I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminal. We've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing. And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. On day one.
You need to do a 180 on all of this now, Tulsi.
And as you guys saw, Tulsi has a point here. The Associated Press released an article a few weeks ago that talks about how Harris has changed her mind multiple times regarding different issues. Even though Harris said that she will proudly put her record against Donald Trump any day of the week. Now, the focus is that we're not really sure where she stands with different policies. Just a few years ago, Harris wanted immigrants who were in the country illegally to be eligible for government health care. She also wanted to decriminalize border crossings. Biden and Harris both also do not see eye to eye when it comes to Israel and Hamas, at least to some extent. Harris has also supported defunding the police before, but is now suddenly embracing her law enforcement background. It's this distinction between the past and the present that's going to be real tough for her to handle. It's probably the reason why she's only said yes to 2 debates. But there's something that the Harris campaign is doing here that some find underhanded. So the first debate will be on ABC News. Pretty much home turf for Harris. It's set for September 10th, the exact same day that Donald Trump was supposed to face President Joe Biden. So Donald Trump's team is pushing for 3 debates within just 1 month. One on September 4th, the 10th, and the 25th. Harris, though, isn't game for this scenario, arguing that she's only going to do a second debate by October. Now, guys, this is significant because it's expected that at least a dozen states will be done with early voting by then. And so this means that the ABC News debate, it's a must-win situation for Donald Trump, as it looks like Kamala Harris isn't coming out without a plan, which is to try and use her home court advantage to sway voters before a second debate even happens. And this is why Tulsi Gabbard is calling out these news outlets.
She has the mainstream propaganda media helping her, collaborating with her. Frankly, they should be reported for these in-kind contributions they are making to her campaign, because they are doing her work for her. They're trying to claim that she was not the border czar after all, even though there are many, many clips of them saying, well, she was in fact the border czar. I think, you know, so many of those clips she may try to say, oh, well, that was back then, that was back in 2019. The problem that she has to reckon with is the fact that her actions, her positions, and lack of action and failures for that matter as vice president match very directly with what she was saying in 2019. She really does believe in open borders. They really do believe in allowing millions of illegal immigrants to come across our borders, flood our communities. They really do believe in making sure that they have over 10 million new future voters. So again, actions will speak louder than words. Kamala Harris is fake. She's a consummate politician. We've got to pay attention to her record as vice president.
I did a previous video where I show you how nervous these journalists become when confronted with the truth. This is must-see content because it really shows that even though they are aware of their own lies, they still just try to keep the lie going. So anyway, make sure you guys check that video out after this one. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for keeping yourselves informed. Thanks for hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing this video. I'll see you on the next one.